Well, welcome. Yet probably our final session for many of us at this magnificent conference. And what a great conference it's been. And my name is Richard Morrow. I'm the chairman of the Melbourne Mining Club. I'm all the way over here from Victoria in Australia. And I'm thoroughly impressed with everything I've seen. I'm sure you'll all agree with that. I'd like to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for putting on such a magnificent conference. It's a true credit to us. I can't wait for next year already. I'd also like to thank our sponsors for today's event, because these things don't happen without our sponsors. A key message from yesterday that I picked up in the plenary session, it might have been Mark Bristow of Barrick, was the importance of a robust junior exploration and development sector. Without it, the big guys just aren't interested. You in this room, the small, ambitious explorers, shall we say, are the lifeblood of this industry. Certainly it's the case in my home market in Australia, and the juniors do drive what's happening at the big end of town. Small companies can move faster and run lower cost programs. Easier. Fewer decision makers. We all know it. We need our smaller exploration companies driven by our entrepreneurial businessmen. Many of you in this room I see today. Today's session is all about exploration. It's the lifeblood of the industry. Let me tell you how it's going to work. And thank you for your patience in starting today. In a minute, we're going to hear from two companies who were successful in the first round of the exploration bidding. Next up, we'll have a presentation from Dalia Al-Zawad, a geophysicist with the Ministry of Industry, who will walk us through the bid process and tell us about the current round of 6, which is currently underway. I'm sure you're all aware of that. Might even see a couple of lucky winners in front of me here. At the end of Daria's presentation, the fun starts. Seated in this room, we have investors wanting to know more about the opportunity in the current round. And we also have companies who are interested in the very same thing. We're going to put you together, but we're going to do it quickly. We're going to have a speedy presentation session. You've got just 5 minutes to sit down, discuss what your projects are, then bang, got to move on to the next one. Speed presentations. And we'll have our wonderful staff here to help out, because things don't always move as quickly as we'd like to, but we'll get it done. We want to introduce people with opportunity to people who want to fund that opportunity. So, sounds exciting, doesn't it? It certainly does. Okay. So let's get this show on the road. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Alan Davies, as the CEO of Mochico Resources, who won the first ever permit last year. And of course, Alan's also brought along his chairman in there. We'll also hear from him as well. But you'll have to be on your best behaviour, Alan, with the chairman here. So,
as always.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Richard. It's great to be here, but just a little bit of background on Mochico. We're our exploration development company. We specialise in taking either greenfields or brownfields exploration, taking it through the development curve and then operating it. We have taken properties in Zambia through to production, so we are a copper production. We're expanding to about 60,000 tonnes of copper cathode at the moment. So we have been looking around the world in what we would call the investable shields, looking for opportunities in that area. Of course, the shield here has always been of interest and has been through various sort of political moves over the decades, but we're very enthusiastic about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and what they were putting together in terms of what was actually a very clear structure of bidding. Anyone who's been involved with this area knew about the Kanagia deposit, which was the first bid sort of off the blocks, and we developed an interest in that. we spent quite a lot of time, when the bid documents came out, trying to understand the process and the way that the kingdom put the process together and the ministry put the process together. We were very refreshed with, because it was actually extremely clear. The bid criteria were clear, the expectations were clear, the grading and the scores were clear, but then the process was clear as well. And of course it ended with what is a bonus bid process, which of course when you go through the mathematics of reverse auctions, you knew you would have to do quite a bit of work to understand what is the affordability, depending on the grade, the greenfields or brownfields part of the deposit. So we did quite a lot of work preparing for the bid. We did a lot of work on our documents and of course the technical side. The social side, which is extremely important, which is graded very highly in the bid criteria. And our project director Dion here spent quite a long time pulling that together with our, we use some consultants to help on the plan as well. We made it through the rounds. We developed an excellent relationship with our partner Aslan and Brothers, who I'd say is a fantastic partner for us here in the kingdom. And we were very prepared to go into the final bidding round. So Kanagir, the final bids were 255 million rial, so it was a proper investment up front, and we've got a proper investment plan, and we intend to move very quickly into finalising the studies that we promised and into construction. So we've been extremely pleased with the support we've got from the kingdom and the ministries, the Ministry of Investment, and the support, the financing support, and the clarity with working with the government. So we're sitting here very enthusiastic about the program we're moving into, and we're interested in a couple of the other potential rounds coming up. But I would say that from an organisational perspective, we also do have our hands full, and we intend, on behalf of everyone who intends to participate in the Kingdom's program, being the first winner, we intend to outperform our obligations so that it's seen as a success not only from a bidder's perspective, but the whole program seems like a success. So we're very committed to that. Peter, do you have any?
No, I just think we are very impressed with the whole system that we have had to deal with over the last nearly year, and we really look forward to being in a position to bid for other projects. But the most important thing is that we now get our boots on the ground with the project director there and the rest of the team, who I think will be starting down on site. About 6 of them will be out in a week, and the whole thing is now we've got the momentum going. So that's very exciting from our point of view, and it's something that we look forward to coming back and seeing it develop over the next few months.
Alan, you're not listed on a stock exchange at the moment. How does this sort of play out into future changes in your capital structure or listing, or do you think you'll stay private? Or?
Well, the good thing that we've been able to develop is Peter and I started the company through its early stages, and we did some private rounds after we were sort of up and running. So we've got a very supportive shareholder base. I mean, clearly we had thought about a listing over the course of last year, but when you sort of move into the convolution of factors that happened, we decided not to progress with that. We are in production. We're producing copper. We're fully funded for what we're doing. We're fully funded for the what we need for the Kanagira project. So we're not needing to list, but it's always something we think about. We're very interested to see how it develops here with the Kingdom's stock exchange, because I know that there's a lot of investors here in the Kingdom and elsewhere who'd like to invest in what I think would be one of the flagship projects in Saudi as well. So we've got an open book. There's no decisions made, but we've got options ahead of us.
And priority commodities that you would target?
Well, we love copper, we love base. Clearly on the EV transition, our core skills are sort of developing and processing with the metallurgy and taking it through to product. So we're also looking at the zinc and copper smelters down at Yanbu, with Ajlan, our partners. So we're, I wouldn't say totally agnostic on commodities, but in terms of processing base and EV type materials.
Well, you're first out of the gate, so this whole room will all have their eyes on you over the next year or two, and we certainly wish you all the very best. So thank you very much there, Alan. And we'll move on now, if we could, to Alistair Smith. He's Technical Director of Alpha Exploration, also a winner of a permit in the recent bidding. Of course, you're listed on the TSX. Alistair, how did you find the process, and what can you tell us?
Well, we're not actually, we hadn't won in the bidding round. We certainly were interested and we were involved in the Carnegie round, but really I've been asked to talk about the prospectivity of the Arabian-Nubian Shield. And so I'm going to do that very quickly for you, so bear with me in terms of what I believe. I've been operating in the Arabian-Nubian Shield for 20 years as an explorer, and I've had some real success here, and I want to sort of impart some of what I've learned over the years. So first off, I'm going to take you on a very quick journey that actually takes billions of years. So where does the commodities that most of you are interested in here are gold, copper, lead, zinc. Where do they come from? Well, they come from the stars. So, gold is actually formed, the kind of physics involved in generating gold as an element, you get in the collision of neutron stars. And that's where it all happens. And then things like the heavy elements like copper and zinc and so forth, that's in the heart of supernova explosions. So people think this stuff comes from down in the bowels of the earth. It does, but it didn't start there. It starts in the stars, it condenses into the planet, and then you have these shield areas, as we call them, and they float around and they occasionally collide. About every 500 million years, they'll come together. Now that's where the magic happens, okay? So these collision points where you have subduction and heating up, and then you have hot spots coming up, you have volcanoes. That's how you get the stuff. The heavier elements, when they come together from the cosmos, form the planet Earth, they go down deep. They're not at surface. So you've got to get them up to the surface. And as an explorer, we need to find out where these collision zones are. Well, you're in a zone here. The Arabian-Nubian Shield has been undergoing collision zones for several generations, from the Ridaniyah to the Gondwana supercontinents forming and then pulling apart. So as an explorer, if I want to be really successful, I could go to Australia, and I've worked in the West Australian Shield. I've worked up in the Mount Isa region as well. I can come to Africa. I can go to Canada. If you go to those places like Australia and Canada, they've had excellent exploration geologists working for 100 years or more. All the really easy stuff has been found, okay? They do have massive endowment, and there's hundreds of mines operating in those two big shields. If you look at the Arabian-Nubian Shield, there's that many operating modern mines going at the moment. There are, there are thousands of known occurrences and ancient mines and so forth. But in terms of modern operating mines, there's like that many. So if you want to be successful as an explorer and a mine developer, the big ones and the easy ones to find are in the Arabian-Nubian Shield. So why hasn't it been explored the same as Australia and Canada? It's not because of the prospectivity, it's geopolitical reasons, which is all changing. So Saudi Arabia now is really, the government's putting its shoulder behind really developing the hard rock industry. And that's just fantastic because you've got stable government here. Eritrea, where our company Alpha is involved, is exactly the same in the sense that I'm talking to the same Director General of Mining from 20 years ago when I first went there. It's the same person. So stability is important. So these are the key things. You want to be successful in finding a mine? The things that you first need is a stable jurisdiction. After that, you need a mining act that is stable and unchanging, because you've got to have a runway of 10 to 15 years to start exploring, make a discovery, develop it, do the feasibility, get a mine built, and then start mining. So if things are moving around in that period, it's very difficult to get enthusiasm for investment. So that's a very important thing. The other thing that you've got to remember that you're involved in mineral exploration, and this is very hard for many financial people to really get their head around, is that you're involved in financial industry is involved in wealth creation and development. So you want to build real estate, you get the right materials, you go to the right place, you build buildings, and you make a profit. In mineral exploration, you're in the business of wealth discovery, all right? The thing's already there. You just got to find it. That's quite different to the development and wealth generation from that. So, you say to yourself, okay, there's not a linear process here between, you come into Saudi Arabia, for example, to go and find a deposit. And you come and you say, I'm going to put $100 million for the first 12 months into exploration, and that means that we're going to find 5 mines. That's not how it works, all right? There is not a linear relationship between the money you put in and your success as an explorer. There are many other things involved that are actually more important. One is, wherever you're looking, the deposit's got to be there. You can have the best team in the region. If it's not there, you're not going to find it. So that's very, very important. Now, what's happened with us as Alpha Exploration, we've focused on Eritrea, for the last 5 years. We started out with a 1,000 square kilometre area. We have made 3 discoveries in just over the last 2 years. And that's a porphyry copper gold, a VMS, and an orogenic gold. That is almost unprecedented for one junior company to have in one license area. And I mean, the results we're getting you can look us up on the stock exchange, are very, very good. And so I just sort of want to make the point to you that this is the place to be for the next 50 years, really, when you compare yourself to the other big shield areas around the world. And it's because it's largely unexplored. The porphyry copper gold was sticking out of the ground. It was completely undocumented in Eritrea. I deployed 9 geologists to do a regional soil sampling program. I didn't deploy field assistants, I deployed geologists. They stumbled over it, and it's sticking out of the ground. The same with our VMS, the Gossans there. They stumbled over it. You can't do that in Canada now, and you can't do that in Australia. They've all been found. So if you want to invest and have the best opportunity for success, the Arabian-Nubian Shield is the place to be. All right?
Wow, I think that really sets the tone for where we're going to go next. On that, thanks for that, Alistair. And it's certainly, what do you think, reflecting that back to your shareholders, what's coming back your way? I mean, share market for junior explorers not the best at the moment, but what feedback are you getting back, if I could ask?
Well, they're very impressed with our success rate.
Yep.
There's no question about that. The general questions that come up with us are jurisdiction. So they say, you're in Eritrea, and so the perception of somewhere like Eritrea, the perception of Saudi Arabia, the perception of Egypt and so forth. If you're outside that, if you're in the West, and that's where we have been in the past trying to raise our funds from, it's often very negative in terms of the international perception. But when you go to these places and you live there, it's fantastic. So, I've tried to sell Eritrea to people that know me very well, and they're, yeah. And then they actually come and visit me, and within a week, they're just, wow, we had no idea. I mean, to give you an example, just in terms of what people's perception is and what actually Eritrea is, Asmara, the capital city, it's on the World Heritage Site, the whole city, because it's an Art Deco just wonderland. It was built by the Italians, it's been preserved. To walk around Asmara city is fabulous, and it's the safest place in the world. And I come from New Zealand, and I can tell you that, and so it's the perception of corruption there. There is no corruption. I've worked in Tanzania, I've worked in other parts of Africa, and so I came to Eritrea with all kinds of preconceptions. Well, it's not like that. Now, it will be the same here. So you've actually got to go to these places and then experience it. I've lived the last 18 of the 22 years in Asmara because I like living there. It's great.
Well, that's a great endorsement. Well, thank you to our company, the people on the ground, the people that want to be on the ground. And now let's sort of get more inside the process itself. And can I now call to the stage Dalia Al-Zawad, geophysicist with the Ministry of Industry. Here she is at the back here. If we could get you up here, and we're going to hear some of the more technical details of the proposal, the legislation, and how it's going to work. So please, a round of applause, if you would, for Dalia. Thank you.
I move that.
I'll just wait for the presentation to pop up. Yes, perfect. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our session today. My name is Dalia Al-Zawad. I'm a geophysicist with the Ministry of Industry and Mineral Resources. And today I'll talk to you about our exploration licensing grounds. We'll start the presentation with the objectives of the Saudi mining licensing grounds. Secondly, as you all know, the Kingdom successfully awarded 2 licensing grounds last year and is now putting forward 6 additional licenses to be finalized this year. Muhaddad, Bir Umq, Ridaniyah, Jabal Sahabiyah, Hadid, and Jabal Idsas. To ensure the Kingdom's true commitment to an open and transparent mining sector, a licensing ground process is launched for additional exploration sites. Our objectives are, first, we want to make sure that we allow for distinctive investments in Saudi. Second, we want to increase exploration spending and discoveries in the country. Third is to provide mineral resources to value chains of national industries. Lastly, is to attract the best mining companies from a performance, economic, and social return perspective. The 2 principles who guided the development of the licensing ground were first, transparency and competition, and to collaborate with mining players to ensure their feedback is received and addressed. The Kingdom offers a differentiated value proposition for mining investors. First, in designing the new mining law, the Ministry of Industry and Mineral Resources cooperated with leading local and international organizations and relevant government stakeholders to ensure that we have a world-class mining regulations. As an example of some key features in our new mining investment law, it allows 100% foreign ownership, exclusive right to convert an exploration license into a mining license. Moreover, the Saudi fiscal regime is one of the most competitive globally, with 20% income tax and 2% average royalties for most minerals, as well as royalty fees exemptions to miners for the first 5 years of the license. As you all know, Saudi Arabia has a fixed exchange rate, 3.75 Saudi Arabian riyals for US dollar. And in addition, we have a stable and a competitive energy supply, not to mention our robust infrastructure network. And I'm proud to say that Saudi Arabia is a G20 country. We play a critical role in creating an enabling environment for inclusive global growth and development. Lastly, co-funding up to 70% of CapEx through the Saudi Industrial Development Fund. Moving on to the licensing grounds in Saudi Arabia. First available license is Muhaddad. Muhaddad is located in the beautiful Asir terrain. It's about 80 kilometers away from Bisha city. Muhaddad is my favorite because it has 4 major commodities: copper, zinc, gold, and lead. The site covers 139 square kilometers. And now, for the exciting part, their previous work. In the late 70s till the late 90s, Rio Phoenix and BRGM discovered and explored the site. More than 1,000 meters was drilled, three ancient pits of the east-west zone were discovered. A pre-visibility study was made by BRGM in the center of the license area. In 2022, 3D geomodeling was made by SGS and SRK. Furthermore, 11.2 kilometers of IP and resistivity lines and 248 channel samplings were completed. And to give you more information, diamond drill holes intersected at 1.31 meters intervals that contains 0.9% of copper, 24.1% of zinc, and 0.88 ppm of gold at 82 meters. Next comes Bir Amq. Bir Amq is 187 square kilometers in size, located in the mountainous Hijaz terrain. It's approximately 60 kilometers away from Mahd city, just 5 kilometers away from the Jabal Sahabiyah mine, and also close to Hadid, which was the second license we awarded last year. All of this should give you an idea about the commodities in the site. Well, you guessed it. It's copper, zinc, and gold. In the mid-60s to the late 80s, Rio Phoenix, BRGM, and USGS discovered and explored the site. This resulted in magnetic, IP, and resistivity lines. Three mods were discovered, 1,600 geochemistry soil sampling, 2,500 meters of diamond and percussion drilling, detailed geological map at a scale of 1 to 100,000. And it's worth noting that diamond drill holes intersected at 0.35 meters intervals that contains 1.4% of copper, 0.4% of zinc, and 4 meters of 20 grams per ton of gold at 244 meters in depth. Ridaniyah, a 75 square kilometer zinc and silver deposit, which is located in the Addawadmi terrain, not too far from our first successful auction site, Likhnagiyah, which was awarded to Moshiko and Adjan, which we just heard from in the panel discussion. Moving on to the previous work, Rio Phoenix, BRGM, and USGS discovered and explored the site. EM, SP, and ground surveys were conducted. 16 mods were discovered, 42 trenches and 31 drill holes were made, 900 meters drilled. And the most exciting part is that Rio Phoenix reported a resource of the mineralization beneath the main Gosan of 2.7 million tons at 2.76% of zinc and 20 grams per ton of silver. The fourth licensing round is Jabal Sahabiyah. It's the largest license in size so far, covering a vast area of 283 square kilometers. It's about 10 kilometers away from Tathlith city and less than 45 kilometers away from Hamza mine. Zinc and lead are the major commodities in Jabal Sahabiyah. Rio Phoenix estimated an inferred resource ton of 140,000 gradings of 2 to 3% of zinc. Hadid. Hadid is located in the Afif terrain, about 170 kilometers away from Ligwa'iyya city. The site is 246 square kilometers in size. It has silver and lead as major commodities, zinc and copper as minor commodities. And from 71 to 86, Rio Phoenix and BRGM discovered and explored the site. 5 mods were discovered, SP surveys was conducted, 1,350 meters of diamond drilling was done, 9 go sand sites within 30 degrees, 250 samples were collected. BRGM estimated a resource of 5,000 ton grading at 10 ounces of silver. Our last exploration licensing ground is Jabal Idsas. Some interesting commodities in the site: iron and vanadium. This license is in Al Rayyan terrain. It's about 45 kilometers away from Al Amar mine. From 71 to 86, Rio Phoenix and BRGM discovered and explored the site. 3 mods were discovered, stream sediment sampling was collected, magnetometer survey was conducted, 6.6 million tons of 50% magnetite iron. The major magnetite mineralization lies in a zone about 3 kilometers long and from 300 to 1,400 meters wide. Let's move on to our proposed auction design. We do have a clear and simple instructions to follow. It starts with the registration to get in contact with interested investors. The second step is the pre-qualification stage, which is to identify qualified bidders who meet baseline qualification criteria. Followed by the proposal stage to identify the top bidder based on technical criteria. And lastly, the awarding stage, which is selecting the winning bidder. We invite you to take a short survey to verify your eligibility to qualify for Muhaddad and future licensing rounds. We basically have 2 main requirements. First is technical requirements, a minimum of 20 years of cumulative experience of exploration staff, at least 1 greenfield or 2 brownfield projects, base or precious metal exploration experience, VMS or similar style mineralization experience, minimum of 1 advanced project, 2 pre-feasibility study. The second main requirement is financial requirements. Minimum of $5 million of company net assets, minimum of $500,000 spent in exploration in the past 12 months, minimum of $500,000 access to funds for the first 3 months of the project. Thank you so much.